So with cake decorating, this is all the tools that I have here. Okay, so we're gonna go through each of these step by step, but let me change my exposure here, maybe. There we go. Okay, so our serrated knife is super important. It has teeth so that it can go through the cake. Okay, if you try to use a chef knife, it's just gonna crush it. So serrated knife is most important. These are very sharp, okay? And unfortunately, when you cut yourself with a serrated knife, you cut yourself with multiple blades, so it's awful. So we wanna be very careful when we're using this, okay? I'm gonna have my offset spatula, the one that looks curved. Okay, let me turn my chat off. And then the other stuff I'm gonna show you as we go. And the other two things are these. These are my cake smoothers. Looks this one. Okay, it's flat edge for smoothing. And then my cake comb is to add designs. Looks like this. This is a cake smoother, and then a cake comb. Think about like your hair. All right, so obviously I told you guys before I used to work at Safeway, so my boss still works there. So she was kind enough to give us some of the cakes from Safeway. So they look like this. They actually come frozen in plastic at Safeway, in case you did not know that. They're still pretty good, but just when people ask all the time, like why grocery stores cakes are so cheap, this is why. They literally come frozen in a plastic. Okay. So what I do is I open these up. And we're going to set it in the middle of our cake board. Okay. And well, these are actually frozen too. So I'm going to let it thaw a little bit. Okay, so this is the one from the grocery store. They're going to be much flatter than one that I bake at home. So once I bake at home, I'm going to show you what it looks like. I do different things today. This is one from home. Okay, cake mix from home. It has a dome on it. So that's when it would need to be leveled. Okay, you see the difference between these two? Okay, if it's flat on top, great, we don't have to level it. But if it isn't flat, step one of cake decorating is to level your cakes. Okay, step one, leveling. So if I were to use this cake, I would take my cake out. And for that 1 through 6 that I had you guys write, this will be step one. Okay, so step one is leveling the cake because we want it to be nice and flat on top. What happens if a cake is not flat on top? Any guesses? What happens? Huh? It won't stick on, right? Yep. What happens if I put another cake on top of this one like this? It'll fall off, okay? It'll crack. So not only is it going to cause it major issues like cracking, and then it's also going to look weird. If you stare at it, it's going to look kind of unlevel and wonky. You want it to be nice, flat, and level before you stack it, okay? So what I do, I take my knife. I'm going to try to go around this way. Okay, and I literally just, I'm going to score it. So I start my knife in one spot. Okay, I try to go down or below that little ridge area. And I place my knife. I'm not going to move my knife at all. I'm only going to move the board or the cake. Let me back up a little bit. Yeah, sorry, Alonso. Okay, so I'm actually locking my elbow into my hip so that my knife doesn't move. I make a small indentation, and then with this hand, I am spinning my cake. Okay, never moving my knife, only spinning that cake. Okay, once it's all scored, then I can start going farther into the cake because it's going to follow that line that I made. Okay, and then you can use this for cake pops or just eat it or whatever. Okay, so that's leveling. That's step one of making cake, is to level it. Okay, we're going to go back to my chocolate cake over here. Step two is called torting, T-O-R-T-I-N-G, torting. So this one's already leveled, so I'm not too worried about making it smoother. But this next step is called torting. Torting is creating the layers on the inside, okay? So it's gonna be the same process, but it's to create this cake to make 2 different layers so that we can put a filling in between, okay? So first step was leveling. Second step is torting. Okay, the same process happens. I put my knife, this is frozen, so I'm gonna have to kind of push kind of hard. I put my knife kind of centered. Go down here lower. Okay, kind of eyeballing it about center. I don't know if you guys can see that line. Hold on, I'm trying. Okay, and I'm gonna press in a little bit. We're good? And then again, I'm just gonna spin the cake, keeping that knife totally still. I'm just spinning the cake. Okay, notice when I start to get to the edge and that knife is gonna start to come through, making sure that my hand goes back on top, because I've done this before. The knife slides on through the cake and I end up cutting my hand. So make sure we always keep your hands away from the blades. Okay, and that's gonna give us 2 layers. And then you can fill this part, okay? So this is the first layer. So when you guys make your cakes in the kitchen, for the ones here, you're gonna have 2 different cakes, okay? It's gonna look like the 6-inch. Just because they'll hear it too. Okay, for the second one, I'm gonna do the same exact thing. Okay, so for step 1 was to level. Step 2 is to torque. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing on this one. Find my little center mark, spin only the cake, not my knife. Okay, and then I have, now how many layers do I have? 4 layers total, okay? All right, next. Third step, we're gonna fill. When we fill a cake, you guys can fill it with absolutely anything you want. I usually just take a spatula and just smudge it around. We're using American buttercream today, which is what you guys get at the grocery store. It can be big buckets. All it is powdered sugar and a fat, like Crisco or something. So it's really thick, which makes it kind of hard to spread without getting crumbs. So I put it in a piping bag today so that it's easier to fill with. You can do this with anything, but I have a pretty big piping bag, and then I don't need a tip or anything. I'm just going to cut the ends off. And I'm going to fill in a spiral. So literally at Safeway, what they would do is we would just kind of like go back and forth. It didn't even have to be perfect. I'm going to try to be a little more perfect than that. And I'm just going to start at one side. And then it's going to go in a spiral. You want to keep it even, okay? Because once you start stacking, if you have really wonky filling, it's going to make your cake wonky. Okay? Like that. You don't even have to smooth it. You literally just have to put your next piece on top and then press it down. If you had a wet filling or a liquidy filling, you're going to want to put a dam around it. So what you would do is you take buttercream, you literally make a dam around the edge. It's okay if it goes over the edge a little bit. You would fill it in with your strawberries or custard, whatever might seep out the sides. That's what that dam is for, to keep it in the inside. Okay. You don't want to go too close to the edge because then it'll fall out before it stops the actual filling. But in this case, we're just going to keep on going with buttercream. Okay. Number 3 on there. Let me fill my bag up. Okay. Most grocery stores cakes are really like sweet. It's because there's a lot of buttercream on it. There are different types of buttercream. Again, this one's American, but there's ones that are much less sweet, but they involve a little bit more skill level, like boiling sugar and stuff. So that's why they're not common in like grocery stores. Okay, last layer we've had level, we've had torque, and now we're filling. Okay, going around again. All right, for this last one, you want to make sure you use the cake, the bottom of it. So where it came out of the pan, it's nice and smooth. I know it's hard to see the chocolate on there. Let me flip this. So you don't want to make this the top of your cake because it has crumbs. If you go to try to frost it, it's going to pull all those. 1 second. Okay, so when you flip it actually out of the pan, you'll notice that the bottom is perfectly smooth and nice and pretty. That's what you want on the top of your cake. That way the crumbs don't pull. Okay, so the chocolate one is kind of hard to see. You have the side that you cut and then the smooth side. So the smooth side up and then right on top. Okay. This is what we have so far. 3 layers of filling, 4 layers of cake from 2 cakes. 4 layers of cake from 2 cakes. Okay, so now it's time to frost. So step number 4, make sure to keep anything. Yep, level, tort, fill, and we're gonna frost it. A few different ways you can frost it. For beginners, they sell this tip. It's ginormous. It looks like a giant basket weave tip. It's probably about half my finger. Okay, this is kind of one of those, for American buttercream, I use it because again, the frosting is so thick. And this, when I squeeze it, is actually gonna come out really thick. And those combs are used to stick it to the cake. It's to help it go onto the cake. So all I do is I set it next to my cake and I squeeze and turn the cake as I go. Okay, trying to keep it pretty level. That way it's all pretty even all around it. Okay, for the top, I'm gonna start towards the corner. And then for the top up here, I'm just gonna swirl it. Okay. All right. That's the easiest way to get it frosted quickly. Okay, normally I would just put a bunch of frosting and smooth it out. This is the fast, this is like the grocery store method. Okay. Then with my offset spatula, we're going to smooth it. Okay, so after we frost it, we're going to smooth. And I'm pressing very lightly because if I push too hard, it's going to pull my frosting off versus pushing it onto the cake. Little holes are okay. You might see a little bit of the chocolate in between the layers. It's fine. But I'm going to smooth it out. So number 5 is smooth. Okay, American buttercream is called a crusting buttercream, which means after it sits out for a while, it's going to get like this like crust on it where if you touch the cake, it won't stick to you. It'll make a dent, but it won't stick to you. So it's important if you're going to do anything like sprinkles that it goes on pretty early stages because if it dries, the sprinkles aren't going to stick to it. Okay, so with my smoother, I put it against the cake, right up against it, and I just slowly turn the turntable to smooth this out. Okay, as I turn, I can see that there's a lot of holes in this. You can see a lot of like divots. So I'm just gonna go through and just add a little bit more buttercream in to those holes. Okay, it's easier to take away buttercream than it is to add. So if you don't put enough and then you're scraping it, I'd rather have you put too much and have us scrape more frosting off than trying to push it back together. But the great thing about the combs, okay, again, I'm just lightly pressing this, just enough to take off a little bit of that excess. Okay. And then for the top, I learned this, my boss, I had a horrible, horrible boss at one of my bakeries. He's the one that taught me how to frost cakes. Zoom in here, okay? See, there's like this lip. I use it at this angle, and I just lightly pull it towards the middle. Okay, I thought it's about a 25-degree angle. I'm not going across the whole cake. I'm just lightly pushing it because once you add all your decorations, it really doesn't matter. We're also going to use a cake comb in a second, and that's going to help even more. Oh, I just totally hit my arm in it. 1 second. Okay, I'm happy with that for now. We went to smooth, and then I'm going to use a cake comb. This is not one of the steps, but this is a choice. Awesome. Is to have a comb. It kind of hides imperfections. So the cake comb I'm going to use has the teeth on it somewhere. Okay, looks like this, and it's going to be the same way that we did the frosting. Make sure we don't dig it into the cake because that's going to pull the crumbs. But we're just going to lightly touch the side and we're going to pull it around. And as we pull it, it's going to leave those lines. Okay, those lines are purposeful. It's a very easy way for beginners to hide major mistakes. That's why Safeway and them do it, because it's easy. Makes it look fancy without having to do a lot of work for it. Okay. All right, so we have this. I'm going to smooth the top out just a little bit more. I have a bump in it I don't like. Another thing with cakes is you don't want to overdo it. So a lot of kids want that perfection, smooth frosting. If you keep going at it, you're going to end up scraping all your frosting off before you ever get there. It takes time, it takes practice. I don't expect you guys to have a perfectly buttercream cake the first time you try it, okay? All right, so for celebration cake, I told my other class, at least I told this class, my biggest pet peeve is when students, or even people in general, don't use sprinkles with a purpose. Sprinkles have purpose. They are not just to be thrown on a cake for fun. Okay, I'm gonna put it on top of this paper, or let's go with foil. Probably good to have them under here before you use sprinkles because they'll go everywhere. If you have dogs, it's okay, but they go everywhere. Okay, so I have my sprinkles here. And what I'm gonna do gently, I can do this on the opposite side. I'm gonna take some sprinkles in my hand. Okay, and I'm just gonna go around the edge. Okay, not too worried about the ones that are falling. Okay, this would be using sprinkles purposefully. I'm not just throwing them everywhere. Okay, tapping off my board. Alonzo, can you grab that side for me? Just grab the corner of the foil. There we go. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so far so good. And then the last step, which should be on number 6, is to decorate your cake. Okay, however you feel like you should decorate it. So what I did, I kept it pretty simple for today because I'm already making a complete mess. Is I have a star tip, a big star tip. And I'm gonna do dollops on the top. Okay, I'm gonna go straight up and down 90 degrees. And I'm gonna do like little rosettes. I do it in opposite. So I do the top and the bottom, and then the side and the side. Why do we think I'm doing this? What would be helpful about this? So it's all even. Yeah, because if I try to space, if I do it in a circle, I'm not going to get an even circle. So this helps me space it out. So about 2 more would fit here. So I do one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, one here. I'm almost out of frosting. Oh, I'm short one. Hold on. So close. Yes, you absolutely can. Yep. You could do like just one on each side. You know, whatever you want. You just leave it. It's good. Thank you. Okay. So my rosettes on top, and then I'm gonna take a few more sprinkles, again, using them deliberately, not just throwing them on my cake. And I'm gonna sprinkle them around the edge. Okay, this is the point in the process where you say, okay, which side's the front? Every cake has a back. I'll let you know that right now. Even like the most beautiful cakes you see, there is a back, which means it's the rough part of it. So as I spin this around, I can kind of see that it's a little, it's hard to see on camera. It's a little uneven, like this side's a little bit higher up on the edge, then this side decides nice and close to the edge. So I'm gonna make this my front. Okay, and I have to put a message on it. Okay, I always do the outside border before I do the message, because if you try to do the message first and then do your border, you might end up covering some stuff up. So you want to see how much room you're left with in the end. I went with green, so it's pretty neutral. And the closest birthday coming is Gabriel's. Sorry, you're still gonna get a cake. It's okay. Happy late birthday, Will. Okay, so happy birthday, you want Gabe or Gabriel? Gabe, okay. So happy's gonna go here. Birthday's gonna go here because I don't want to try to fit that all in one line. I'm gonna do birthday first. That's my center point. I'm gonna start here. It might be. Again, the spacing just takes practice. Knowing how big you write is the big one. Anniversary is kind of the hardest one because it's super long. Okay, don't forget to dot your I's and cross your T's. Often the biggest mistake that is on a cake is that the T's and the I's aren't dotted and crossed. Okay, then I'll come up here and do happy. And then we'll see if we can fit Gabe. Good thing you chose Gabe because I don't have a lot of room. Gabe. Okay, but this is going to be a very simple celebration cake. Okay, obviously there's some tools involved. You can use Ziploc bags for my at-home kids. You guys can use Ziploc bags and cut them a certain way to make like little like piping if you wanted to. You don't have to. Sprinkles, again, using them deliberately, even if you do like a sheet cake, like a 9x13, like most people do at home. Put the sprinkles around the edge. Don't just throw them over the top. Put them around the edge, put them in the corners. Make sure we do everything deliberately. Okay? Let me make sure I hit all the